just want to give you an idea of who you're dealing with, because that'll give you an idea of the kind of questions and the kind of material that we can cover. It'll be quick, so I'll try to be quick in the introduction so we can get into this. But James is a top 10 LinkedIn influencer, prolific writer, successful entrepreneur, chess master, venture capitalist. He started several companies and is actively invested and advises over 30 different companies in areas ranging from tech to energy to healthcare to biotech. James has written for the Financial Times, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, and the Huffington Post, and he hosts 2 podcasts, the James Altucher Show and Ask Altucher. So he's qualified to discuss a variety of things. But James, actually maybe let's go, somebody actually left their phone here in case they need it. Just can you give an idea of like why you're uniquely qualified, both as an investor, a technologist, an artist, and a podcaster? Like, you've been exposed to a lot from a lot of different disciplines. What is it that gives you the insight to think about AI and where this future is going?
Just testing if this is on. First off, I think actually no one is qualified right now, because we just don't. I mean, think about when ChatGPT was first released about 1.5 years ago. What were all the first headlines? Do you guys remember what all the first headlines were about ChatGPT? It was all, I got ChatGPT to say some racist word. Like, that was all the headlines about AI at that point. And then it was all like, oh my gosh, there's this thing, Midjourney or DALL-E, I could make myself look better. Like, that was the next wave of excitement about AI. Everybody could look better using these generative AI visual solutions. By the way, nobody wanted to look uglier. You didn't see any companies like, we can make you look uglier. It was all, everybody wanted to be better. And I think what is happening now, very similar to what happened in media, with newspapers and the OOs and many companies with the internet in the 90s, is that no one simply knows. I was doing websites I had a business doing websites in the 90s. I remember pitching JP Morgan. They didn't have a website at the time, it's mid-90s, and I said eventually people are going to be doing their banking on the internet. And they were like, no way, that's not going to happen. And I remember at HBO, I would say, look, people are going to watch shows on HBO. And they were like, let the internet's for the academics, let the cable guys take care of this. And that was the response. So it's the same thing now. And then you look at newspapers, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post. Guess what the revenues were of the newspaper industry in 2005? $60 billion. Today, $20 billion. So when you say like, oh, it's going to take 3 decades before we really see this, no, I mean, that industry was demolished in basically 1 decade. And you know, it's with AI, because it was unexpected and it was fast, AI is going to be more unexpected and faster. So I don't know if that answered your question exactly,
yeah.
but
I mean, a little bit, but
it.
I guess I ascribe to this, you know, idea that generals are always fighting the last war. And,
yeah.
you know, thinking about, you know, which has been, you know, I think the goal both in the creative endeavors and in business endeavors. How do you think about what you haven't thought of to really get that breakthrough thinking that creates value? So if you're at this stage, you know, which is really the beginning of a new technology and a new adoption, what is the best practices model for the things that people who are running, starting, thinking about adapting into business, what are the things that they should be doing in order to explore, learn, evolve into whatever this new world is going to look like?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people who have been up here already today have used the words risk averse. We're risk averse, so we don't want to try anything too fast. We're risk averse, so we don't want to shoot down the old model and try out some new model. The good news is you don't have to shoot down the old model, because it's going to quickly change, maybe even evaporate. In 2019, this guy Morgan Cooper made a 3-minute fan trailer about a grittier new version of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I don't know if anybody saw it. It had like 10 million views. It was great. It was a beautiful 3-minute trailer. Will Smith loved it. By 2022, they had a whole series, Bel-Air, based on that trailer. It was on the air. And they knew it was low risk because A, the original franchise had been successful, B, this fan-made trailer was hugely successful. Everyone loved it. And now I'm going to be able to type into Sora or the next generation of one of these generative video AI tools. I'm going to be able to say, make a grittier version of The Partridge Family. Make a grittier version of Love Boat. And I'm gonna make not just one trailer. Morgan Cooper spent $40,000 and years making this one fan-made trailer. I'm gonna make 500 trailers in a weekend, and then just see what was successful and what wasn't. Then the most successful ones. Oh, this was the reboot of The Partridge Family. It takes place in I don't know, a homeless shelter or whatever, and it was success. It had 100 million views on TikTok. Boom. Now I'll be able to go to the studio, or the studio will say to themselves, this is going to be successful, and they'll use their video. You're going to have script to 2-hour movie generators, and I don't even know what the studio is going to do. The facilities are going to be taken care of by the AI. Makeup is going to be taken care of. The music, there's suno.ai, suno.ai. I can say, give me a score in the style of an epic John Williams, and it'll make a beautiful score for my movie, for The Partridge Family in the homeless shelter, with the John Williams Darth Vader theme somehow in there. And I'm going to be able to do that. Well, where am I going to have to spend money? Tell me, my question for you, where am I going to have to actually spend money in this process?
Look, I've got a firm belief that like what we were just talking about in the previous session was I think ultimately an analysis of there's a pie, and nothing ever goes away, but new technology always drives a wedge into that pie and takes over a greater and greater percentage. So you combine AI and TikTok and social media, and all of a sudden the limitations on what you can create, which have really been the province of Hollywood because of the investment, because of the monopoly on talent, all of a sudden you can have actors that you want, you can have the sets that you want, so you start being able to create. So I think it feels like a big challenge that's not going to blow everything else away, but it's going to take away by percentages, and it's going to compete in the same competitive landscape for share of time, share of dollar, and that's what I think every business is now trying to prepare for.
But let's say it takes $1 million a minute to make a movie, and now that price goes down to $10 a minute, which is conceivable. Then you ask, what is the role of humans in that, and what is the role of the big corporations of Hollywood, of traditional Hollywood? Or earlier we were talking about the upfronts. What's the role of the upfronts? Because if your costs go to zero or close to it, the upfronts are a different picture for advertisers. Everyone's going to be able to advertise their brand. The cost is going to go down to zero for that. I think the biggest opportunities are going to be for the real creatives. Like, yes, maybe down the road, it's easier for me to say, oh, make Dune or Batman into a movie with all the sets and the acting and so on. But to make the script, yes, I could maybe use AI to do that, but a creative will be able to enhance that. There's always the human experience that AI will never really know that will enhance that. We don't really know, that's just a guess, but all this stuff now, like what does Hollywood traditionally provide? A camera, facilities, back office, marketing, and distribution. A lot of that's going to be taken care of by AI. I don't know how much the old model will last, just like VHS. Some things goes away, like VHS or DVDs. So I don't know what will stay.
Yeah, it's always, I think we're both talking about that same thing of, how do we not fight the last war and start to move into a future that's unknowable? I mean, part of the answer that I would think is, invest in interesting things. Be willing to experiment. Like, are there experiments and trials that you see out there that you think are exciting and you think those people have got it right, or things that you think people have got wrong?
I mean, again, you could start to experiment with content like this, like what I was describing earlier with the trailers. I could make you can make even now a 2-3 minute movie from just a text description and try that out as a trailer and experiment. And then I think for screenwriters using AI to create outlines or plot points, but then the screenwriter takes over with dialogue, that could change the lay of the land in terms of speed at which you could make a screenplay. One example is in the freelancer world. So there's a site, freelance.org, where there's about 60 million freelancers on this site competing for work. The CEO was telling me logo designers used to do one every 2 weeks. A record album's coming out, they'll do a logo in 2 weeks. Now they can do 10 logos a day. And they don't necessarily have to be graphic designers either. So I would experiment by really trying to see everything that's out there, because it's changing so fast, the landscape and the possibilities of what's out there. 2 months ago, if someone was telling you news from 2 months ago, it's already outdated. It's what's coming tomorrow. What's ChatGPT's capabilities tomorrow, Sora's capabilities, Midjourney's capabilities, and on and on. That's going to be, we don't know. For instance, I took a rap video the other day and used Viggle.ai to make myself the rapper on the stage. So I made a music video of myself moving around like this rapper, just needed a photo of me. And by the way, I realized at that moment that I was not cool. Like, the body that was moving in that video was much cooler than me, but it was me that I was looking at. So it was a very unusual experience. But what if now, like, Dune comes out, but then the second release, I get to choose, I'm going to be the Timothée Chalamet character, my wife's going to be the Zendaya character, or maybe we'll keep Zendaya, but that might be the second release of these movies. We don't know. That's the experiment, is what haven't we even tried yet that could be amazing? And we'll be able to do it.
Yeah, we were talking about something the other day, and I'm not sure, exactly how relevant it is, in our world, but people are trying to, experiment. The one I'm talking about in particular is a business that Edward Saatchi is generating, which is showrunner.ai. And I've always thought during, the WGA negotiations that if somebody had really latched onto this, like, people's heads would have exploded. Because just that concept that, somebody's gonna, and what he basically did was digested all of South Park episodes into AI and then started to look at all of the hallmarks in terms of plot, character, beats, themes, and started to generate, and you can go and see it. I recommend that people do that to understand, what's possible. And this was what's possible 6 months to a year ago. But he was generating South Park episodes that you look at and you go like, okay, it's missing a few beats in terms of creativity, but it's got all the things that technically you would want to see from storytelling.
And I wonder if he then kind of used the data of, what the ratings were for each episode, so now he knew how to weight different characteristics of a South Park episode based on the ratings, so then you could tweak that way, or tweak based on focus group analysis, or put out like you and I were talking, put out segments on TikTok, so they use the TikTok algorithm to see which scenes or clips really resonate with audiences very quickly. So there's going to be so many ways to experiment using, we already have billions of people on social media. That's our new focus group. So we have data on that. And AI is really just this way to interface to data. So we're gonna basically create product using AI, then use data from all the platforms to analyze if the product works against a billion people focus group, and then that's going to allow us to pick, what we market, how we market it, how we distribute it, how we make the next version. And I really wonder what the role of the studios, like, someone was asking earlier, how does a creator get noticed by Warner Discovery in the future? Maybe the creator doesn't need to get noticed anymore. Like, they will just create it, and the ones who will succeed will be the ones who do enough experiments and use all the latest technologies and really use that to flourish without asking for permission first from a big Hollywood company based in LA.
Well, look, as one of those people who's always looking for people to get noticed, there's plenty of ways, like if you're blowing up on TikTok, you're going to get noticed. If you've got a book that's selling, you're going to get noticed. Like, that's what Hollywood is there for, is to have that kind of big drift net. But, you know, like in the point that I was saying about, you know, South Park episodes, or, you know, generating even, you know, something that people would watch on TikTok, it's that level of inspiration, you know, the use of empathy. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, like what's going to generate a dopamine release. And this is always the point that I come back to, which is AI eventually going to have that ability to either understand or not care whether it understands? It just has correlation to understanding. Like, what do you see out there that's possible when you look over the horizon?
I mean, you look at what AI does now and what it's good at now, and sure, it's going to get better at everything, but things tend to plateau. Like, it's hard for a chip right now, an NVIDIA chip can do 300 billion calculations a second. It's going to be hard for it to do 500 quintillion transactions per second, at least for a long time. And so you look at what it could do now, because it's probably going to hit some plateau at some point. It's really good at making images. It's really good at, let's say, music or some of the other things we spoke about. But if you ask AI to tell you a story, it's still not that good at it. I have not seen good AI storytelling anywhere. And that's where I think using AI as a collaborator, you know, either AI will replace you or AI will be your assistant. So think of AI, all the ways you can use AI as a collaborator, where you're going to be able to enhance the AI or have a good partnership with the AI, as opposed to the AI completely replacing you. Yes, they mentioned earlier at that Ankler, just writing an earnings report, AI can do. But if you're going to be Woodward and Bernstein investigating Watergate, AI can't do that. Like, that's the human element that can't be replaced. You know, and with storytelling, I think it's the same thing. Nobody has, a DNA is like a gigantic computer, much faster than any computer that exists. And AI can't replace that human DNA yet. And I think the fact that it's so hard for it now, compared to other things it can do, shows that this is an opportunity for a long time, which is just good storytelling.
That's great, James. I think we're out of time. Come and see us. We're going to be in a panel discussion with a couple of other really interesting people, and I guess we will hand it off.
Yeah, the conversation will continue. James Altucher, Carmi Zlotnik, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Great.